In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast this time. It is not Throw It Forward Tuesday. It is We Are So Back Wednesday. Alrighty, guys. So again, I want to thank all of the new followers and subscribers over on Rumble and YouTube. I was actually really pleased to open up my YouTube this morning and see more subscribers. That was really cool. And I want to thank everybody for coming over to hang out over here at BG-Cast and join the BG-Cast family, where we all learn together and we try to make sense of this very unknown, uncharted, and strange territory for humanity at this point in time. That's the best I can say. We're on show number 2 this week, and I'm actually really stoked to have this guest on tonight. She had to reschedule back in July, unfortunately, due to a power outage, but she's here. And, you know, one of the things we're going to start diving into, man, this has been surfacing a lot for me lately. DNA. It's been surfacing a lot. It seems to be, I mean, even last night on the show with Michelle, you know, talking about how our junk DNA is actually a memory shield. And in my personal spiritual evolution, it seems to be, ever since I had my experience at the beginning of July, DNA seems to be surfacing. Everything about DNA, you know, the technologies that DNA is involved in, how our DNA itself is a technology, secret government experiments to harvest our DNA for interesting purposes. So it seems to be, you know, DNA is what I would call the new gold, the new platinum when it comes to everything that's going on today. It seems to have a bit of stake in this unknown, uncharted, and strange territory that we are in at this point in time. So nonetheless, let me bring on my guest. She's been on BG-Cast before. You guys know her. She is one of Urban's friends. She is also a friend of mine. Let's go ahead and bring on Jen, the nerd in charge. Hey, Jen, how's it going tonight?
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I love that introduction. That's everything I've been studying and talking about and thinking about. This is really exciting.
Well, let's dive into this right away, because people who've been here, they know a little bit about you already. You know, so
Sorry.
listen, what have you been diving into, man? Because it seems like at this point in time, this is just starting to continue to surface for me as well. Like, it all kind of started in a preliminary way with my friend Emily Moyer. The couple times I've had her on, she's definitely dug into this stuff a lot. And she's actually turned me on to certain things as well. But let's hear what you've been diving into, man, because this seems to be just surfacing everywhere, the DNA. So I'd love for you to enlighten us.
I would say that. I mean, and I can't enlighten anybody. I'm just on my own journey, right? But I appreciate that. No, like what you were talking about with the memory shields and things, that's what I'm trying to jump into, because I've studied the science. DNA has come up throughout my story, good Lord, forever, because of, you know, having to find my why, find my father, and find that whole situation. So with that comes a lot of understanding that I grew through, as I say. And I think DNA has a lot to do with that. And after going 40 years of not knowing, and then discovering your DNA, understanding your DNA, knowing what it is, who you are, not just studying in a book, but being able to be like, oh yeah, this is that, you know, and then going deeper and other things. And so I've studied the science side, and I've taken that. And then, you know, with the whole gate discussion that we love to have a lot, that whole situation is just, it made me think that there's more to that conspiracy of they've been harvesting the DNA and they put it in these movies. And, you know, there's a reason why it's in all this discussion. Why? And so diving further, I mean, you know, we talk about it a lot on X, but I just love the topics you talk about because it's not discussed. And if we knew what our DNA was, I think we'd be pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things I'm going to bring up, and I want to thank Michelle for this. She just sent this image to me, and this is kind of the how embedded. Hey, Cosmic, what's up, man? Thanks for being here. I always enjoy seeing you here. And but so Michelle sent this to me, and I'm thankful she did this because this kind of breaks down the symbolism behind our DNA. I'm going to pull up this image real quick. I think it's worth its weight in looking at. So let's take a look here. So the first one I'm going to bring up is the Masonic DNA codes, and as you can see,
thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And so as we can see here, you know, there's a lot of symbolism when it comes to our DNA and what I mean. You know, if we're even looking at it from this, actually, my good friend Don talks about how on our DNA there's enough storage space that could be equivalent to 13.8 billion years, which is the consensual age of the universe. At least, you know, if we're going by consensual science and things like at this point in time. So we know that in and of itself, that DNA it can host a wealth of information. It can also, you know, dictate a lot of different things as far as technology is what I'm coming to see and what I'm coming to find here. So, and one thing I'm going to say about it all too is there seems lately, and you know, I've talked with a lot of people, and I've talked with you about this too. It seems like a lot of us in the awakened community, we seem to have a knack for getting our blood drawn a lot. And this is something.
And then being afraid to do the DNA tests because they'll have our stuff.
Oh, I mean, we all saw what happened with, you know, Ancestry.com and
23andMe and stuff.
Yeah, 23andMe. Yeah. So, and I still can't believe. I just have to throw this in there real quick. I still cannot believe the Mormons were converting all of this DNA to Mormonism, so they could you know, go to the Mormon heaven. I thought that was pretty funny, but nonetheless, this is, you can see how you know, because I call things like this from the Invisible College. A lot of people call it from the Masons, the secret orders, and things like that. This is the Invisible College, in my eyes, symbolism for DNA. So I just wanted to bring that up there and show everybody this image real quick. And then also as well, what we're going to take a look at is this right here. So I have a study. So one of the biggest things that I found very interesting was, and I think I brought this up with you on our chat, Jen. So I did an episode back in season 2 about cruciform and the Tesseract. Right. So I'm going to kind of give just like a little bit of a kind of like a refresher on this. So for those of you who have not seen a Tesseract, or you don't know what a Tesseract is, and this is leading up to something big, Jen, I'm going to show you. So we have a Tesseract right here. So what this is a 4-dimensional cube, right? So when we're looking at obviously we can see this is a 4-dimensional cube. And actually this was actually made pretty big in one of Salvador Dali's paintings, where it actually shows cruciform. I did bring up the painting in that show. But then what happens is when you unfold a Tesseract, you get something called cruciform. So what cruciform is it's technically a 3-dimensional crucifix. And we have some examples of this here. And actually one of the biggest examples I'm going to bring up is this cathedral right here. So as you guys can see, this cathedral, and we're talking about these very old Gothic cathedrals, all right, they are built in cruciform. All right. And actually, this is what's really funny. Hey, Maya, thanks for being here again. Thank you for joining the show again. And but what's interesting about this is, I don't know if you've heard the stories, Jen, of how people will walk into these old Gothic cathedrals, and when they're, the organ's playing, or there's resonance going on in this cathedral, people walk in there and then they walk out and they ultimately feel better. Like they could be having a bad day, they could be sad or depressed, along those lines. And, they walk into one of these cathedrals, whether the organ's playing or there's some kind of resonance occurring in the cathedral, and they walk out feeling much better. Well, this is the icing on the cake. So we talked about Tesseracts being a 4D cube, and then when we unfold them, they become three-dimensional crucifixes. Well, guess what we have in our DNA? We have cruciform structures in our DNA. So this is one of the things, and I actually have an NIH study here about this. And so what's very interesting about this is these are important in regulating biological processes. So I'm going to dive into this real quick. I got DNA cruciforms play an important role in the regulation of natural processes involving DNA. These structures are formed by inverted repeats, and their stability is enhanced by DNA supercoiling. Cruciform structures are fundamentally important for a wide range of biological processes, including replication. And one of the biggest things, Jen, that you and I have been talking about, it has to do with regulation of gene expression.
Right. So and epigenetics is trending right now. So yeah.
Absolutely. So we have these almost, it's like an intertwined three-dimensional, four-dimensional structure that's in our DNA that's very important for regulating genetic expression, certain biological processes. So my question is, like, are they trying to utilize something with this? I honestly, personally think so. This is just kind of, I'm coming off the cuff here, and I'm just spitballing. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is something that they are looking at. This is something that they are trying to harness. They are trying to figure out, because we see right now, one of the biggest things that's going on is there's a very anti-human agenda going on. Yeah. I'm sure you can agree on that. What are your thoughts on this? I know we chatted about this, but I kind of want to dive into your brain a little bit and see what you think about this. And do you think this is something that they're potentially trying to utilize? They're potentially trying to harness, because this goes into eugenics. This goes into all different sorts of fields.
Well, and also it's how you are too. It's who you are. And if you are that powerful, if you are that sort of a being, if you can walk into a building and be realigned and healed and go on about your day and be amazing for the rest of your life, we're missing something now. We're paying people to be healthy, and that's not helping us. So what are we missing? And so if we had that knowledge, if we knew that that was capable, some of us might choose to be healthy the natural way, because we want to. Others might choose the pharmaceutical industry, and that's, their choice. It is what it is. But if you knew that this is how you could be, but that's been gate kept and that's been made into a conspiracy. And so there's levels of the DNA talk, I think, and the whole discussion of it, I think, is to create a diversion. Because if you knew how powerful your DNA was, if you knew why you were targeted, if you knew why you were in the gate program, if you knew why your family did these things, if you knew why you reacted this way to this cereal, you might be a different person. And so it goes on so many levels of understanding your code and your genetics and how they're turned on and off. It's just switches. And if one was turned on differently, you're going to act differently. Something's going to react differently. And if they know how to do it and you don't, then there's like a rug that can be pulled out from under you at any time. And I feel like we are the conductor. You talk about those. I think we are the conductor. We are the salt. We are the power source. We are the battery. And if we knew we were the battery, like maybe I'm a copper battery, you're a lithium battery, I don't know, batteries, whatever. But if we knew what we were, then we would be pretty powerful. But we're told, you're poor from Kentucky. You can't do this. You can't do that. Okay. And that's how I live.
Let's find out what you are. I have the periodic table here that I was saving for the next segment, but if you don't mind me asking, okay. What is the last two digits of your birth year?
Okay, the last two digits of my what?
Birth year.
8-5.
8-5. Let's take a look real quick. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead
I'm
and
old,
pull up.
so that gave it away.
You're I'm not far behind you. Okay. So
Okay.
trust me. Yeah, I'm 88, so I'm not
Oh,
far
that's
behind
right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was
yes.
Urban that's young. He acts like he's older than me, like my older brother. And then I was like, oh man, are you graduated? I felt so bad. So that
Urban,
was
I'll tell
funny.
you what though, Urban, no, I thought he was just the way he carries himself. He was in his 30s, man, for sure. Like, yeah.
Oh, his
So
knowledge,
we,
his knowledge. I thought he was my older brother because I could just say, hey, what do you know? Yeah. And it was
oh,
awesome.
100%. So you're radon.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so you're radon. It's very interesting. So like, so we're gonna kind of dive my okay, come on. You know, I know what you mean. We're all young. We're just gonna go like this. We're all very
That's
young
good.
at heart. Okay, like, you know,
I like it.
I'm still young at heart. I mean, I still feel like I'm in my like mid-20s, you know, I'm not gonna lie. So, but it's interesting because we'll dive into the next segment on why this periodic
Tribal
table is
elder. I
important.
love it.
I know. And Don
Yeah.
and Spinja, you know, they're
I
they're
done.
holding it down always. So, but no, so you're radon, and I'm actually 88. So what that makes me, let me pull this up on a wider view again so I can see it.
Quartz
So I'm
heavy
actually,
zones. That's interesting.
yeah, I'm radium. So, you know,
Oh,
so I'm radium. So that's very interesting. And I'm gonna explain why this makes sense actually now. Why not? Let's get into it. We're already on the topic.
yeah. Did I
So
cut you off? I didn't mean to. Sorry.
no, you didn't cut me off at all, man. No, you're good. And so basically this is what I'm hinting at with this periodic table, guys. I'm gonna take it off the screen for a minute. So our DNA, and then my mom chimes in. Okay. All right. Nobody's
Yeah.
old. Nobody's old. Okay. We're
You
all
choose your age. I feel like you
a
kind of
hundred,
choose where you want to go.
100%. And also too, like one of the biggest things, you know, and of course all of you know this here, the choices you make today in your life, what you eat, how you move, you know, your thoughts, the content you intake are all going to dictate to how you age. So nonetheless, let's
Yeah.
cap that. We're all young here.
Okay.
But anyways, no, so
We're all
actually
young here. Agreed.
agreed. So Emily Moyer brought this to my attention because she talks about how our DNA itself and can be utilized as a form of technology and to project energy, right? And her theory behind this is why a lot of the presidents, a lot of the world leaders, in almost some ways, their marriages are somewhat arranged.
Arranged.
And yes, they are arranged. So what happens with this is because they are arranged, they pick these specific birth dates to get a certain molecular makeup for the potential projection of energy. Because one of the things that I'm starting to find here, which is really interesting, is alchemy is being used on our collective in a metaphorical sense. These parasite class, this invisible college, they are using what I would call this type of figurative alchemy, you know, with our human collective and with individuals as well. So the reason why I'm going to bring this up, because we're going to bring up our two favorite people, and this just showcases, because when we look at these two people and the things they've done and the certain energy that they've projected into this existence, I'm going to tell you what, I think you guys, this is going to make some things add up for you. So let's look up Bill and Hillary Clinton's birthday. Why not? Let's do this. Everybody's two favorite people.
They're trending and always get you some views, I guess.
no sarcasm there. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at Bill Clinton's birthday here. So we have Bill Clinton birthday. We have August 19th, 1946. All right. So pay attention to those last two digits, 1946. Right. All right. And now we're going to look up Hillary Clinton's birthday. So, and as we see this is going to be pretty interesting. So we have Hillary Clinton's birthday. Boom. We've got 1947. Okay, so pay attention to the 46 and 47. And the other thing I find really strange about that is the sixes and the sevens, and what sixes and sevens kind of represent on that spiritual level. So now let's bring up the periodic table. Let's go ahead here again. We're going to bring up the periodic table. So let's look at elements 46 and 47. So we have palladium and silver. Okay, two highly conductive metals. In fact, sitting here, being an electrician, I can tell you that, silver is one of the best conductors out there. And so this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is the mindset that a lot of this is working on. We have a very, what I would call, I'm trying to look for these words here, because the best way I can describe it is there is a symbolic and literal alchemy that is occurring here on a energetic and physical level. They pick these individuals that have these highly conductive makeups to them, and they use them to put them in these positions of power to project whatever kind of energy that they want this collective to put forth and manifest. I mean, we know the collective consciousness is what manifests this reality. And basically what I see going on at this point in time is they're utilizing this superconductivity to project a certain energy into our collective to get a desired outcome. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Jen?
I would agree. I mean, I was sold on the toroidal energy factor back in the day of Thrive. I don't know if anyone watched that documentary. And so the energy of the earth is a toroidal situation. And I think it relates to this. I mean, if you have the unfolding cruciform situation, I believe it relates to this. And I know that all of that is encoded structure, and which also, I mean, like, I tend to look at things as if it were a computer, right? And if our brains were computers, then how many terabyte drive is my brain? How many terabyte drive is my DNA? And I think this all relates to it. And what does your computer run off of? And does it electrically align components with the amount of electrolytes you have in it? Like, are you a healthy conductor? And that's how things will roll. I think that's how I look at it. And I think people like Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the people who handle them, let's just, say that there's a class that way. I think those people probably know this stuff. They know the technical components of everyone's DNA and how they're going to align. And that's why the marriages are arranged. And that's why they have the power. That's why they're allowed to be put in these positions. Meanwhile, we're told, don't take a DNA test. You might not survive it. So...
it was interesting. So funny story. So actually, speaking of my mom, because she's in the chat, and Cosmic, I'm going to get to your question next, because that is a very good question. So my mom, actually, she commented on the link of this video. So I guess she has, because she takes care of the elderly and things like that. So one of her clients, the people that she cares for, actually ordered actually, I'm going to read the comment real quick, because it's very interesting kind of how sketchy it all turned out. So she stated, I can tell you, my client had this lab calling her. They sent her a DNA kit. When she received all the paperwork in the kit, I looked it over and I said, don't do it. Needless to say, they haven't stopped calling for her to return it. I blocked all the numbers they called on. Today they used a private number. It would not come up. She told them she wasn't interested and did not know where the kit was. And my mom ended up throwing it out. My mom's pretty privy to this stuff too. So just kind of an interesting story.
That's interesting.
It is, right? So they end up sending her this DNA kit. I don't even know if she initiated.
But then they wanted it back. It's not that like, oh, she didn't do it, whatever, we'll ghost you. It's like, get it back. Why?
Yeah, give it back. Yeah, and then why the constant phone calls? Why calling from private and blocked numbers? That's kind of strange. That
I would want that kit tested. I would like to know what that actually entailed. But that reminds me, I've heard a lot of stories about people that. And I don't know how to test this. I just know what personally happened to me. But if you supposedly have a special bloodline and you take those tests, then you will get contacted, because there are people that watch those and then they wait for things to ding and be like, oh, we have a new one. you know.
Well,
Yeah.
Definitely. Real quick, I want to answer Phil Cosmic Voice's question. He asked if the 5G towers would play into this too.
Yes.
And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Even the Gwen towers too, Phil. They're going to play into this. And I ultimately what we're looking at is they want to manipulate and they want to mutate our DNA. They want to do things with that. And I mean, you have to think everything's frequency based. These 5G towers have this have a frequency that they emit. Same thing with the Gwen towers as well. And it is very possible that this could be an attempt to alter or mutate our DNA. Hey, Mom, if you don't mind clarifying real quick while you're here, did she initiate the asking? Did she ask for this test, or was it just sent to her out of the blue and they called her? Because this is going to be the big thing. Because if she asked for the test, that's one thing. But if they just ended up sending the test to her and being like, "Hey, we want you to take this,"
did she ask for it? That's different.
Yeah, she asked for it. But as you were saying, let's dive back in while we wait for her to answer. So as you were saying, no. So I've had Heidi Love on the show, and so we got patents. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I might have to ask you to be the secretary for the show, the show now. So
yes, thank you.
Yes. So, but nonetheless, so I had Heidi Love.
You did not.
She did not ask for it. Okay.
That's creepier. That aligns with some of those conspiracy stories where they're like targeting to make sure that so and so is a such and such.
Oh, yes, no, 100%. But like that's strange. So we have an 87-year-old woman, everybody, did not ask for the DNA test. Okay?
Would somebody have possibly gifted it to Aunt Sally? Would it have just been like a gift that got sent, maybe?
There you go. That's another question, Mom, if you want to answer that, since you're in the audience. Was it a gift or was it just out of the blue?
That's weird.
It is. And that's why I get kind of, intrigued, and I get kind of interested in this kind of stuff, because I had Heidi Love on the show. I've had her on the show twice now. And she talks about that. They potentially have these genetic sequences that go to these bloodlines of antiquity. Like, it's apparently like the Atlantean bloodline, or you have like the 12 tribes of Israel bloodline. You have this bloodline and all that, the bloodline of Enoch, all of these different, antiquity bloodlines that I guess have a similar genetic sequence and a similar genetic code that they can track. And that's just lending credence to kind of what you're saying there. Because, so she said, no gift out of the blue, lied and said her doctor ordered it.
And they wanted it back. So in case you were to be like, hey, cops, why did this happen? They could probably trace who it got to, and that's a shady source. So that's intriguing.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I mean, that's why an 87-year-old woman, I don't know. This could be
so her bloodline is probably the last of something. They want to make sure. So they tend to try to eliminate some of these bloodlines, or elevate one of the two. So they could be testing to see how many are left in the bloodline or other things.
Absolutely. We got a comment from Michelle over here. She's like, they want to put certain genetics under certain monarchs to establish themselves as the oldest genealogy on the planet. I've been given dominion over the earth. Exactly. And then she also kind of chimed in, and they also want to have genetic authority over the living gold and the earth. I saw this in my activation. No, that's exactly what they're trying to do, because, that's why I've talked about this on the show many times. I do most certainly believe now at this point, after my experiences, that there is a bloodline amongst us. There definitely is, and there is, and they're looking for it. And I've even thrown this equation out there before. I'm even going to kind of bring it back from the beginning of season 2 of my show with the episode I did, Bloodlines. And I'm even going to throw out this equation. All right, let's say we're going by the consensual timeline. Don't get me wrong, for the sake of ergonomics here. But let's say Jesus had kids, right? Whether it was Mary Mags, or yes, Mary Magdalene, but I call her Mary Mags just for short. And
Mags, if you're friends,
Yeah, exactly, right. And then there is there's another reported woman that has come up in different old scriptures named Sarah, who also could have potentially been a possibility. I do think Jesus had kids. I do think Jesus was just like us. I do think the facade that they put over him, that he was the only son of God and what he did was unattainable and only the Son of God can attain something like this, was used to kind of divert us from ever trying to truly walk in his path the way that he wanted us to walk in his path. But let's say they had 4 kids, right? And let's say, couple that over the course of 2,000 years. So you have 4 kids, potentially having more kids down the genetic line. That is very possible you would end up with about 144,000 in that gene pool. And
that's an interesting number.
In this common day, it's very possible. It was like give or take, like when I did it, because I was like, okay. And I like literally sat down there with this for the episode. I'm like, okay, so let's say they had 4 kids, and then they had 4 kids, and then they had 4 kids. And I kind of like, and all the kids had kids, and I kind of like did this math and I drew out this tree, and it was like 100 and like the first time I did it was like 143,790 something, and then I did it again by like adding a couple things, and it came out just a little bit over 144,000. But it's very possible that that this could be a potential bloodline that they're looking for in us. I mean, we know that a lot of our history, as we know it, has been doctored, has been fabricated. There's even theories that there's been 1,000 years added to this timeline by the Catholic Church. And one of the biggest things that really there's a lot of evidence for that. It's very small but subtle evidence. And I've talked about this a lot lately, and this will probably be the last time, but when I've talked about it with yoga, when the British invaded India, or they occupied India, and if we're going by the consensual timeline in history, it was in the 1700s when this happened, when the British occupied India. But when you look at the tombstones of the British soldiers, we see the year 700. Which is very strange, because if we're going like, there was one that was like 716 AD. There was another one that was like, I think it was like 724 AD. And it's very interesting. So that one of the things they try to use to explain it away is the fact that they have a J in front of that date. And they say the J represents 1, as a numeral and things like that. But I looked all over the place and I can't find anything that actually solidifies that J in that time actually equivalates to the number 1. So I'll digress and I'll say this. I think it's very possible that we could definitely have a bloodline amongst us. We could be a lot closer to these times of antiquity than we potentially realize. And I'm going to say this, I think a lot of us, in some way, shape, or form, and I have yet to test this out, a lot of us who are awakened and on, our spiritual evolution, our awakening journey, could be very well distantly related. And that is,
I would believe
it. What are your thoughts on that? I want to hear it.
I would so believe that. I think people need to do their DNA. I am so controversial on that because I know that the companies are bad, and I know they're going to sell it and make, weapons against you and all that. I know it. However, the fact that we don't know is a big deal. And so I think everybody should get their DNA testing done so that we all know who we are and what's related en masse, because then that's more powerful than one knowing here and being able to be offed. I think if we all know what's going on, if we all know who we are, then it's much more beneficial to us. And really, like, things are washed. You talk about the history getting whitewashed over or racially washed over or tribally disconnected in all these different situations because of political situations. Families don't know anything. And so like it creates all this disconnect that I believe is why we are who we are today as a society in America. And that's not what we want. We're trying to be healthier. How can we be healthier? You have to look inside and find out who you are. And you can't do that if you don't really, most people can't sit quiet for a minute outside of the awakened community You know, sitting quiet for a minute is
Mhm.
difficult. They have to put a podcast on or some ambient music or some ASMR or something else. They can't sit with themselves. You have to know who your DNA is, because it's encoded with all of that ancestral stuff, but also the 12 bloodlines. They were trying to divert them and just, you know, separate them for a reason, and they ran for a reason, and they were lost for a reason, and they've been hidden for so many times. I mean, William Penn supposedly found them in the 1700s on the coast of Delaware, I believe it was, and that was hidden. And then he was, I believe, check me, I don't know, put in jail because he said, this is what I found. And so it's very interesting how many times they've found things that say the 700-year situation. I wanted to ask you, was that the mud flood story too, when they wiped out
Yes, yes,
everything?
yes. And you know, that's something I'm kind of starting to entertain a bit lately. That's 100%. And of course, like I had a conversation with somebody on X real quick. Let's get to some comments and I'll get to that. So we have Michelle. They said they put my friend underneath 100% British heritage of the Queen of England, and she was from Trinidad and Tobago and looked like Miss Cleo. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That was a British
Um,
colony or territory or some such, I believe. So maybe they're just covering it and not allowing actualities to come through too. Because I'm supposedly all from Kentucky. And if you look things up, we don't have a people from Kentucky here. We came on the Mayflower at a certain time. So
uh, definitely. And you know what's interesting? This actually, and I'm almost kind of like I'm kind of like throwing up in my mouth a little bit about what I'm about to say. But uh so my mom, how I found out that I am actually very distantly related to Benjamin Franklin. My mom informed me that my uncle found out through his DNA testing that he is a distant. I think it's, if I'm correct, I know she's here. Maybe she can verify for it, but it's I think it's like twice cousins, twice removed, or something bizarre like that. But because he is my uncle and I have his blood in me, I share that bloodline with him. That means I myself am also distantly related to the rapist. I hate to say that because I mean that's what it is what it is. I mean, you know, when we talk about how much of a dog he was and all that and all the shitty things he did, and plus, you know, according to consensual history, but
well, we're all related to somebody that was shady. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. Well, it's
I
interesting
can't
because
wait to tell you who I think I'm related to, but I haven't found the connections, so I can't really
let's hear it.
necessarily.
Let's hear it. I'm curious.
No, it's just a theory, so I'm afraid to like put it out there, but let's just say that if you're good with Google, you'd be able to find his name. And I found it in 3 places on my ancestry, right?
Uh-huh.
Where like I'm pretty sure it's there, but there's a missing link and I can't find it. And then there's this aunt and situation, and I'm pretty sure that's who's connected, but I can't find that link. And so I'm like, how do I have 3 of these connections? And I can't. So there's a few of these people, but I'm trying to make the connections to Charles Manson for one. Yeah, and I think I'm connected to his mother because he was from Cincinnati, so it makes sense. And then there's another, if you're good with Google, the financier of Hitler comes up.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But I mean, mine could also have been the farmer that was down the street with the exact same name and number of children. Totally possible. So
It's strange because well, this is and this is what we're kind of talking about when it comes to, you know, getting to know yourself and getting, because I'm convinced this is I'm at least convinced on my end of things that there is something interesting there. And the reason why I think this is you know, so when we look at my mother's maiden name, Janender, right, it actually dates back to I believe it's a either Proto-Germanic or early Germanic settlement that was known as Michelle, stop with that. And but it was but like a really early Germanic settlement called Jeanette, which means the end. And from what I read up about it, they were very mystical and pagan in this settlement called Jenn. Because when she told me about it, I looked it up, and yes, there was a lot of mysticism in this place, and there was a lot of pagan practices going on in this place as well. So, I mean, that might explain
That's
a little
cool,
bit.
though.
It might explain why I am the way I am a little bit.
Well, heretic, I was going to say that explains why you have questions.
It does. It explains why I have questions. But
yeah.
And the only reason I call myself a heretic is funny because in the consensual sense, I am. You know what I mean? Like, of course, in our community, we know I'm not. But in the consensual sense, like if I was talking to like a modern Christian or somebody who practiced like things like that, I'd be considered a heretic, most certainly. But nonetheless, I kind of want to bring this up. Let's dive into this because it was interesting because when I told you my story about what happened to me in Florida, and I was talking about how I felt like the mosquitoes were taking my blood and they were bringing it somewhere, and you actually kind of solidified this as a DARPA conspiracy or something that's actually happened with DARPA. Well, one of the interesting things about this, so I could not find an exact, I guess you could say, experiment or project for that, but DARPA has had an obsession with mosquitoes and insects. So I'm actually going to pull this up. And ticks.
So anytime you see a bug trending as like the new danger infestation,
there's something to it. So I'm going to bring this up on how DARPA is very, very, very infatuated with insects. So let's bring this up. So we have DARPA is hacking insects with virus DNA. Okay, raising fears of dangerous new bioweapons. So this is this is interesting, because like you and I were talking about Bill Gates too, and the synthetic mosquitoes that he was releasing. And I mean, he released those all over Florida, did he not? That was like the first place that he was going to release them.
Yeah, and it's not long after that you'll see a big story that says mosquitoes released to help the environment. And then if you're in the groups like on Facebook from multiple areas, you'll see, oh my God, the mosquitoes have been horrible here and they just bite me ridiculously and blah, 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 blah. But the news story will always say, and I don't know science, but they'll always say it's the female one that doesn't bite, or it's the male one that doesn't bite or something. So they're not actually able to bite. We're just doing it for science purposes. And yet in those same areas, the mosquitoes are going crazy that year and biting people ridiculously. And then there's usually, I mean, I would love to study this, but like follow up, there's usually, issues in that area for reasons I don't know, but I think you could study it.
Absolutely. And it makes you kind of wonder why our government and DARPA is so obsessed. Hey, Sam, I just saw you pop in. It was obsessed with, using insects like this for certain technology. I mean, this is just a little bit of evidence here showing that, what we're talking about is maybe not that off base.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about stargates before, you and I, and this is something also as well that I spoke about with Emily Moyer too, is that yes, stargates are genetic. There is the DNA sequences are what activate this, and this kind of even goes into what I would call, I think they're real, but this old technology known as a Vimana, right? And we talk about the Vimanas, which were these flying crafts that were actually in a lot of Vedic mythology. One was supposedly found, if I'm correct, I think it was in either 2015 or 2016 in the Middle East. Somebody stumbled upon it. They also stumbled upon a giant out there too, and that's another interesting story to talk about. But
Delaware, that's what I'm saying. We've talked about that.
Yeah. So so they've stumbled upon this Vimana, and they said that when somebody tried to touch it, it freaking blew them backwards and it knocked them unconscious. But supposedly that the Vimanas are activated through DNA genetics as well. There's a certain family lineage that these crafts or these ships were given to, and it was only strictly for that lineage, that family, and those are the only people that could use it. And we talk about how stargates exist, and how there's a potential genetic lineage for these stargates too. What have you dove into as far as that goes?
I haven't dove into that at all, but that connects right back to what you're talking about with Bill and Hillary Clinton. Because I wonder if that connects in any way. Can you do the technology chart?
The periodic table?
The periodic table chart
Yeah,
of
I can bring that
Elon
up again. Yeah.
Or Bezos. Because the people who go to Mars or go to space all the time, I'd like to see what their connection to all the Stargate possibilities are. Are they conductors differently than the rest of us?
Let's check it out. Let's check out Jeff Bezos' birthday.
I think there's definitely something to that, and to jump back while you're researching, your mosquito topic isn't off point at all. And what's funny about it is years and years ago, I thought it was happening and it was a conspiracy, and you would talk about mosquitoes being utilized or mosquitoes being able to do this. Or I even asked the question one time because I ask a lot of questions and I'm not really that smart. So I said, is it possible? Like if I'm at a barbecue with my boyfriend's sister who has like HIV or hepatitis or something like that, because she's crazy, do I, like if a bug bites her and she comes and lands on me, do I have to worry about that? And it was, of course not. There's no way. Like I was shunned for even asking questions about mosquitoes. So I find that interesting because right now on interesting day. April 20th, 2024, genetically modified mosquitoes is on the CDC website, and it talks about the two different types that they have and what they're used for and why they're doing it. So it's not a conspiracy. So they do use them.
No, it is. And it's funny because, of course, when we're talking with somebody about something like this, of course, the cognitive dissonance is going to, and right now I honestly feel, and this is just me, I honestly feel like the greater collective at this point is under some kind of strange hypnosis. And that's
could be this.
Way
they got bit by a bug.
It could very well be this, but Bezos, so his birthday is 1964. So when we look at the periodic table for the 64th element, we are looking at gadolinium. So let's kind of give up a look here. Let's see what's going on as far as gadolinium goes. Let's see here. Let's see what it is. So, you're going to dig this. So gadolinium is a rare earth metal used primarily in medical imaging as a contrast agent for MRI scans.
What a connection.
That's pretty strange, is it not?
So the person that owns something that everybody shops and get all their stuff on happens to have the DNA encoded, whatever you want to call this, to be able to, what is it? Like see inside in a different way?
All I'm going to say is this, that's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at Elon. I'm going to sneeze 1 sec. Excuse me. I think I'm about to.
This is interesting too. It says what happens when rare earth frequencies modulator meets the sacred architecture of human consciousness. I love what AI does sometimes when I ask it stupid questions. It'll spit some interesting things around, but it talks about, it says gadolinium is MRI contrast nuclear reactors, high-tech magnets, and quantum computing systems. So if you take all of that knowledge and you think about, he just goes to space for fun, and he just, gets married and the whole world trends and talks about it. There's definitely more to him than just he's a rich dude. Then he shows up at all these political things and becomes a trending thing. Why is he at the political things? What does the owner of a shopping network have to be at these political things with Trump for? It doesn't actually make sense unless he has a bloodline that says, hey, you'd be powerful if we need our powers combined. You are Captain Planet style situations. They need him there, right?
One thing I'm going to tell you very interesting. So, real quick before I hop into this, so Elon Musk is lutetium, and it is a silvery white rare earth metal. It's used in medicine, catalysis, and material science. So, but one thing I was going to say about Bezos, and this is not something I've talked about on this show before, but this could be very enlightening for everybody to kind of lend credence to what you're saying, and there could be more to Amazon than meets the eye. Back at the end of 2020, I was building an Amazon data center, but where this Amazon data center was located was a little strange. It was located at Buckley Air Force Base out here in around Aurora, Colorado. It's on the outskirts of Aurora, Colorado. So Buckley Air Force Base actually conducts a lot of military drills. They're kind of like they're very secretive, like Air Force Base. They my earphone just fell out, but they're a very secretive Air Force
It doesn't
base.
want you to talk about this.
I know. And I remember when I was doing the job, like, of course, like as an electrician, you show up and like some of your questions are like, what's this going to be? Like, what's going on? Like, and like, what are we building here? Like, what are we wiring up? And they were like, oh, it's an Amazon data center. And I remember that I was like really like taken aback. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what is an Amazon data center doing on an Air Force base? That's a little bit strange. And the other strange thing about it too was in the server vaults, we had to seismic proof everything. And I remember I'm sitting there asking, because I saw, like, in my career, I had never been, as an electrician, I had never had to seismic proof anything, because I started, yes, exactly, Sam. Why does a secret Air Force base want an Amazon data center?
An Amazon center that's connected to everything in the whole world. Everybody's logins, everybody's internet, everybody's watching, everybody's buying, everybody's toilet paper. Why?
It's so strange. And so I remember I'm looking at all of these weird things that were they had like these the best way I can describe them are these aircraft cables, these very thick aircraft cables that were basically suspending everything from the ceiling into the earth, like reinforcing it. And I had never seen anything like this in my whole life being an electrician, because again, like I started my career in Virginia, not a huge seismically active place. And then I continued it out here in Colorado, another not a huge seismically active place. We get small earthquakes here, like 2-pointers and 3-pointers, like here and there, but nothing crazy. And I remember I'm looking around and I'm like asking everybody, like, what the hell is this? Like, why are you using these cables to support down all of these conduits and all of these server racks and things like that? Oh, and they're like, oh, we have to seismic proof everything. I'm like, seismic proof? There's no earthquakes in Colorado that are that devastating. And they were like, oh, it's for bombs. And I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of just even adds to the allure of Bezos too, kind of like what you were saying a little bit, because he's in cahoots with all of the Invisible College, the Parasite class, things like that. And now we have Amazon data centers popping, and it was even crazier too. So this isn't the first time I worked at an Amazon data center either. When I first started my career, Amazon has a total of 64 data centers in the Northern Virginia, DC area. Total of 64. And what I would say is a 50-mile circumference. There's 64 data centers. And while you were working there, it was highly secretive. You had to sign an NDA that said that you can't tell people that you're working for Amazon. That has expired for me. This was many years ago.
I was going to ask, what are you allowed to talk about now?
I'm allowed to talk about it all, so they can kiss my ass. So like, that's basically where I'm at with it. So, yeah, so I'm allowed to talk about all of it now. And even then, I was telling people too, like, I thought it was so stupid, because I was like, why can't I say that I'm working in an Amazon data center? It didn't make sense. And they were highly secretive there. They would not let you bring any phones, cameras, or or anything like that into the vicinity. Even the person I was working with, we would have to infrared their electrical equipment, like, see if it's like, heating up or it's getting ready to break down. And
That's crazy.
and so and yeah, I remember they were smashing people's cameras, and we had to get like a special clearance to bring the infrared camera in. So something weird is going on with Amazon. I will say that.
I mean, so you have to imagine, like, as a business owner, think about it. Back in the day, he was sitting in his garage and says, I want to sell everybody in the world toilet paper. Is that his dream? Was that the big overall? I mean, if you think about Epstein, and they talk about how, I mean, they're painting a picture, and Brad Conley does a good job online of painting this picture too. But like, if you paint the picture that like maybe he wasn't the genius that we think he was, maybe he had a capability of whatever source, and he's been utilized for a purpose, and they have to put something on top of it, like everybody buys their tissues and groceries and whatever from Amazon. But in the back end of it, everybody gives all their password or all their knowledge, all their stuff. They can, do all these things through Amazon. So basically it's like another Facebook. So anything Facebook doesn't do, Amazon picks up and they're able to track all of it. I mean, even down to when the rich are in their vacation homes, they know the difference because of when the things are getting delivered where. So if you want to target somebody, I would imagine you would probably need some sort of place like that. And there's a conspiracy, I don't know if this is true, of fusion centers being built to utilize technology that sounds very similar to that. You'd have a whole lot of, stuff set up where people can do the targeting that is, supposedly in the communities that are talked about there. And I don't, I'm not going to get into that topic at all, but if you wanted to say that you had knowledge of a lot of people on, where would you put it? On a military base? I mean, it just seems like that is not discounting to what those people are talking about, is what I'm saying. When you go out trying to see like, oh, the targeting community must be conspiracy and they must have nothing to, and then you start checking off the boxes of, well, they do have it right there. Well, they do have it right there. Well, that is really odd. I mean, you can't really look past that. What are the other reasons? The other thing that I think is odd is we're talking about Elon, and he says, yeah, Stargate vibes. I don't like Elon at all. But I think the interesting thing about Elon is he trends about the tunnels and how wonderful the underground that he has built is, right when everybody's talking about how they're blowing up the dumbs and all this other stuff. He trends with talking about he's being there. He's been there. He's been building those underground cities in Vegas. He's been building all of this stuff. There's underground vaults for Disney in places. There's all these different things. And so like, yeah, they're talking about the tunnels. They've said there are tunnels. They've said there's all this stuff. They know all this stuff. They're utilizing the media and these conspiracies and, food to dumb us down and just tension and all that other kind of stuff, so that we don't talk about the real things that they're talking about at their board meetings. That's what I think.
100%. And since we brought up the food topic, let's dive in deep to this for the last little bit of this show, because
it fits into DNA.
Yes, it does. It does. So, and this is, there's a lot of stuff in our food that actually destroys our DNA. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people have yet to realize, and this actually destroys a spiritual connection that's inside of us, is glyphosates. So what glyphosates do, they have many nasty things that they do, but what the ultimate spiritual attack from the glyphosates is it destroys our mitochondria, and it destroys the endogenous DMT production in our mitochondria. So it destroys it. You know what I mean? It completely makes it unusable. And in order to gain this mechanism back, you have to not intake glyphosates for a long period of time. So this is the number one thing that, I think a lot of us in the spiritual community and awakening community should be. Yeah, we have Spin just saying a sourdough forever. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'm totally on that. Yeah, no.
Well, and like your own berries and like grind your own flour and all those different things, try and get us.
Absolutely. No. And so that's one of the biggest things too. I mean, there's the food right now is the worst thing that's kind of destroying our DNA. And, not a
Right.
lot of people realize this. So, yes, Sam, it limits our extrasensory perception. It's in everything. I'll tell you what, man. And that's why I don't know if anybody out here still drinks Starbucks. I haven't drank in Starbucks in a while. And you want to know why? I had a guy on the show. Actually, he's a friend of everybody here, Frankie Fearless, and he was telling me on how the woman that they use in the
Yeah,
logo
the
for
demonic
Starbucks is
mermaid.
actually a demonic entity.
Ashtara, right? Is that what it is?
Ishtar. It
Ishtar.
could it could technically be like a negative polarity of Ishtar for sure that they're using, but he actually had an experience where he encountered it. And he was like, dude, he was like, after I had an experience with this entity, I was like, I'm never drinking Starbucks again. Screw that. But nonetheless, I digress. Starbucks' coffee is actually the highest in glyphosates that you can go out and get.
Right. Well, that's kind of where I was going with Bill with Bezos, is that they would have a cover of something we all want, need, or get addicted to. And then the back end of it is somehow delivering or getting something from us. And I think that's why the off-gridders have it, right? Because they don't consume the public, and that's, a thing. But the Starbucks situation is very, they utilize that in a lot of brands. Color coding. I mean, marketing is mind control. I love that topic. I talk about it all day long. Color coding, all that stuff. The green is used in Starbucks for a reason. There's so much stuff, but like when we talk about the cell and DNA and food, I think it's so important that we understand how our switches are turned on in our DNA, because if you don't know how you process this certain mineral or whatever, or if you don't know that you can make serotonin, but it has to be done like this, then you're not going to respond properly to the world in a normal fashion, the way the world is set up. And I think if anybody's watched Divergent, I think that's kind of how it is technically. I don't know. I love that example because the whole mass of people will be fine eating regular cereal, but you can't have folic acid. So when you eat regular cereal, your body goes crazy. But maybe they were testing us, and they talk about testing DNA for, your bloodlines and all those different things. And the MTHFR is trending right now, and all these different things are trending. I don't know that they're trending because we're just discovering this stuff. I think all of those things are symptoms of either something that was created en masse on people and their switches were turned off on purpose. And that is the CRISPR that and so there's a whole lot with that, and that relates into cellular toxicity. And if you're not healthy and your cells can't detox, if you can't, you try to eat a healthy cereal and it messes you up for weeks because your cells have the not ability to in and out, and you can't flush and all these different things. So it's just, you have to know how you react. You have to know how you are built, and you're not built like the test says you're in normal range. You're not built normal range. You're built differently, and your ranges are different, and you need to know that kind of stuff so that you can eat the right stuff and feel the right way. And it's funny when people start to get on this path, like I'm not in any way, shape, or form super healthy, but like I've studied the path, so like I can feel the differences, seeing the differences, you've felt the differences. And you talk about this stuff. Well, people who have not, the wake up, I love the wake up moments. They're just starting to get the minerals. They're just starting to understand the parasite cleanse. They're just starting to understand food actually does affect their body. It's a beautiful wake up. Like the brain fog clears, and it's like
oh yeah,
I felt so wonderful today. That's the moment where I think you have to reset your DNA. You have to be able to willingly flip that switch right there. When you say, I felt wonderful today, flip the switch, say, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to keep feeling wonderful, because as soon as you say, I'm going to treat myself with that, whatever, then you start feeling like crap again for 3 weeks, and it creates a whole system that helps the parasite class control you. Because now you're buying their products, not feeling good, not working out to your standard, not doing all these wonderful things you could do as a conductive human being.
Absolutely. No, and that's actually, and that's why I had, way back in my early days, I want to say about 2013, 2014, when Monsanto was coming into the picture, with
Like
GMOs
Bayer.
and yep, with GMOs and genetically modified organisms. So this is actually an issue too. So I had NIH studies at the time. I'm sure I could pull it up again. But it stated that when you eat a food, you absorb genetic information from it. And you have to think, if you're eating a food that has been genetically modified in a lab, it's not 100% natural. You are taking that genetic imprint from that genetically modified food, and it is getting integrated into your bodily system. So, I mean, yes, there's NIH studies on this. I freaking ran a march against Monsanto way back in the day,
Agreed.
and
Do it
all of
again.
that. So yeah, I know. And now it's a march against the Matrix, dude. Like
It's
it's
ridiculous.
a march against everything at this point, man. It's like, yo,
Well,
and that's
Monsanto just rebranded and they sponsor Farm Bureau. They sponsor the freaking, pardon my language, Farm Bureau. So you've got the problem funding these events for all the people who run the farms, these resources for all the people that run the farms, free stuff for all these farmers, sponsored by the people who are giving the poison. So I don't understand how we're supposed to be healthy. I don't understand, if you do not farm your own food on land that you know hasn't been rounded up for 15 years, how are you supposed to be healthy? I mean, I'm so glad RFK took red dyes out of my food. I'm going to be a lot healthier now. But I do believe that, if the glyphosates and if the ability to have plastics in, not leaching into us from our clothes or our water, and like all these things, like I think that's the natural rights we have, is to not have our area corrupted to the sense that we have to pay to live in filth. That's not what we are here for.
No, 100%, man. And that's too, it's taking back your personal agency and your personal sovereignty, and
Yes.
actually the food is I think, the foundation for this all. And it's going to, the food is the foundation. Real quick, I wanted to say something to Sam because she made a comment. So I can't eat bread. It ruins my energy. Chronic fatigue, I believe, could be mitochondrial damage and part from glyphosates. Sam, what I would do is, if you want, I can send you some sourdough starter, or Spinja can send you some sourdough starter, and you can get cracking on the sourdough and making your own sourdough bread. But if you're looking for like a source of carbohydrates or something, I would go with, if you can get a hold of decently priced, like organic squashes, like or decently priced organic potatoes or things like that, because anything wheat at this point in time, I feel it's kind of you don't know.
No, you're
because,
just
like,
trusting a label on a bag.
Absolutely. So
I think you're right on that. And also you can use dry plantains into flour and make like tortillas, stuff like that. The sourdough is a fantastic idea. You have to get good flour, but once you invest in good flour, everything in your life changes, because you can make literally everything that you want to go eat and binge on, and it won't hurt you as bad, especially depends on your other ingredients. But there's even like so with the sourdough, there's sourdough discard, so that you can make all those other things. You don't have to even do the whole stretch and fold hour-long situation. You can just make a 4-ingredient bread. And also, like, there's a shout out to my friend who owns a gluten-free, 100% celiac safe, non-contamination bakery in Fresno and Clovis, California, because of this situation. He buys good ingredients to serve because he was a chef who realized, I'm cooking this food for everybody and I can't eat it. I'm sick. I'm having seizures and I'm not celiac. So what is wrong? And so he couldn't be around the ingredients he had to touch every day. And so he created a restaurant that he could be around the ingredients. And so he only allows in what he can be around. And so if he can't have it, then it's not in the restaurant. And so I think there needs to be more places like that. We need to make a stink for more places like that. So RFK, actually makes a difference, instead of just these little bitty things that are, trending topics, that they're just going to change the label on the barrel of poison. They're not actually going to get rid of it in any of our stuff. So we really need to make some actual changes, right? But yeah. And so there was another question that I wanted to.
Karen had a question up here. I'm going to scroll right up there real quick.
Karen, I can't scroll. So there was one before that too that was good.
So weird question. Yeah. Any thoughts on the DNA transfer when cannibals eat? Is the mRNA related to doing something to this food chain theme? That's a very interesting question, Karen. That's a very interesting question. And what I am going to say, what I do know that happens when humans eat other humans. So there's something called prions. And what prions are their misfolded proteins. Every single animal has them. And actually, this is where things like mad cow disease originate from with the cows, is because these cows had a replication of this misfolded protein in their family line or in their, herd. They had this this replication of this misfolded protein. And so humans can get this too. When we eat the meat of other humans, we can get a human version of the mad cow disease because of the prions that are located in the human meat. So I know as far as this transfer that kind of takes place, I understand that. As far as an actual DNA transfer, I do think personally, you would absorb the genetic information from that individual, and that could potentially be integrated in your system. What are your thoughts, Jen?
Yeah, there's a lot to that. I think definitely with the DNA is probably a possibility. I do know that I find it very, very interesting that Soylent Green was a conspiracy theory trend, and now it's a very popular soy protein drink with green branding at certain popular bread stores. But I don't know if, I know there's something to it. I mean, people still do it, and it's definitely not illegal in the United States. And there's got to be a reason why something as disgusting as that is not illegal in the United States. I mean, there's loopholes and shit. Like, you're not allowed to get the human flesh to eat. But come on, I mean, there's vampires that are existent too and stuff like that. And so it's interesting that we're not allowed to study it, that it's such a conspiracy, that the conspiracy is that the elites do it. And hunting and this and that.
Oh shoot, like are you still there? You were freezing up a little bit. Oh man. All right, Jen, I'll hold space for you real quick. So we have Maya, oh, there you are. Hi. Cool, you're back. They must have not liked what you were saying. That's how it usually rolls when people freeze up. So this is a really cool thing Maya Starfire just brought up. I asked her what these were, so she said curly leaf seeds. And I had never heard of that. So I was like, what are curly leaf seeds? I'm curious. And she actually just came through.
Rock on. Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, thanks for that, Maya. This will help a lot of people as well. So curly leaf is a plant or weed that grows in California, and the seeds can be ground up into a wheat source that is gluten-free. So there you go, guys. Like, another.
And the top of it is parsley. So I mean, if you let it go to seed, I'm sure you can use some of the.
No way! I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
I could be wrong. Cool. Please let me know, Maya, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no worries. We have Sam saying, "Don't go to McDonald's."
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, how is it trending? And it was bought out by a corporation situation. So it matches all of the dots that it needs to be a corrupt situation that could be aligning with this type of situation. So I don't know. It's odd. But I wouldn't.
It's strange I was going to say strange. Didn't Jordan Maxwell kind of validate something when it came to the ground meats here in this country? I think it came back with like 0.0 something human meat.
Something like that, but I find it very interesting that in Trump's campaign, they were all eating burgers from McDonald's and drinking Diet Coke.
It's like that kind of stuff makes me laugh. That kind of stuff,
like Diet Coke is totally a placement. What's it a placement for? I don't understand Like, why are they using that as a placement? I've seen it so much lately and never before. And it's a placement among people who are like, I'm in the know. Are you in the know? Here's my Diet Coke.
It's very interesting. Well, I think one of the reasons why they promote it so much to the public and they try to put it out there, I do think it is a form of what I would call a very slow population control, or a population, because the whole story, because behind aspartame, it's very funny. Nobody knows about this. So when aspartame, which is in Diet Coke, it was first originally introduced, I think it was in the late 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. And it underwent studies, and the FDA didn't approve it because aspartame was giving people brain lesions. And that specific type of brain lesions that are Olney's lesions that they were getting from the aspartame. And Olney's lesions are bad news for your brain. That's just the number one thing I'm going to say. Olney's lesions are very bad for your brain. So then we have the story of Donald Rumsfeld, because Donald Rumsfeld, before he worked for the government, and this just shows the whole revolving door that the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, the banks, all of these things have with our government, because these people will work for these industries and then they'll go work for the government for however long that they're working for, and then they'll go back and work for the industry a little bit longer, and then they'll swap back. So Rumsfeld was actually working for the company that developed aspartame, and I think it was in the early 80s he got into the government and he freaking pushed it through Congress, and he pushed it through the FDA that aspartame would be FDA approved and it would start to be implemented into diet beverages as a sugar replacement. And yep. So this was an inside job. Aspartame was definitely an inside job. Not a lot of people know this. Of course, like, yes, it's all an inside job. I mean, go ahead. What do you say?
No, I'm in shock. Like, that just, sorry, go ahead.
I know. Yeah, you didn't know about Rumsfeld doing that? Oh, it gets even better. The food's something I know a lot about. And I've done a lot of research when it comes to our food. The other thing, too, why fat became demonized, and we all know fat's healthy for us. Right. So in the early 50s, there was a rise. Of course, fast food came into being. The convenience factor came into being. And people were eating more fast food. Okay. And yes, Karen, it was Donald Rumsfeld that pushed it in, but more fast food, and there was obesity was rising. People who were becoming overweight started to become a thing. Mind you, it's not what it is today. It's way worse than it was today back then. But people started gaining weight, and people were kind of, at a loss as to why. So they did studies, right? And eventually what happened, yes, my seed oils too, for sure. And but what ended up happening is they did studies, and they found out originally in the early 50s that sugar was the culprit for obesity. But here's the thing: Big Sugar at that time was a very big conglomerate. It was a very big corporation, many corporations that were dealing with sugar. A lot of money was involved with sugar at that time. So what they ended up doing, even though the studies said that refined sugar was the cause of obesity, they lobbied through Congress and they paid off a lot of Congress members. So then the government dictated fat as the enemy, as opposed to refined sugar. And so what happened and this is what started the whole low fat craze, because you guys know.
Yeah.
And thanks, Spinja. Have a good night. And
thank you. Bye, Spinja.
Yeah, the low fat craze, man. But you look at all the low fat foods and they're so high in fucking sugar. And like
Well,
this
that's
is
the
this
thing, and even
yeah.
the Sugar Association, what is it? The American Diabetes Association has recipes on their website that have like use a little bit of sugar. But if you talk to a doctor that tells you about diabetes, they say you can't have sugar ever again. You have to do this, you have to do that, blah 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 blah. So nobody's really talking to each other about any of that. But what I find most interesting is I have studied this before and it gets blocked. I have like memory wipes sometimes. And I remember studying aspartame because it was running, everyone in my family drank like Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke. And so I just looked it up, like, just to see like why I had studied it before. And I always put things through, what are the connections to Project Paperclip? And so what's funny is you mentioned Donald Rumsfeld, and that is, so that Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defense, he brought it in and pushed it through for the FDA, but it was also used in MK Ultra experiments. They used LSD and electroshock and food-based behavior modification. So aspartame was one of those. It was a warfare agent, was originally created to be a warfare agent, and then they utilized it in MK Ultra experiments, and then now it's in all of our soda pops that everybody drinks en masse by the gallon by the day. And it's safe in small doses, you know.
Well, that's how that even kind of ends up how Rumsfeld ended up pushing it through and getting it approved, because he was working for the corporation who made it, and he, of course, through the revolving door policy, hopped into the U.S. government and was like, my pockets are full of money, we're gonna make this happen. And like, oh yeah, dude, this is how it rolls, man. And then the food pyramid is a scam. Definitely is. That's a whole other show. And the seed oils, how they're actually industrial waste. They're actually they're leftover from industrial applications, and they're actually used for machinery and all of that. So no, definitely. And then we have
what
some
I don't understand is, so like, I don't understand why in some countries these same companies don't have, like, they're not allowed to put these things in their food, from my understanding. And a lot of Americans say, if I go to Europe, if I travel to Italy, I can eat pasta, I can have food, I can eat everything I want. Why are they allowed to do it on us? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, on a court of public opinion, on the whole, let's bring them to the tribunals and have like is this inhumane treatment discussion. I think supplying food to a people that is poison and saying it's not poison, knowing they're eating more than the 2 cookies serving, makes no sense to me. Like, I don't understand how that is not a crime against humanity, because you're not doing it in other countries. It's not like you can say, I didn't know. It's not like you can say, I would never have done that had I known it was bad. It's cheaper here for you to do it. Plus, there might be project alignment with it here. So we might be a test study here. And I don't think people are ready to wake up to the fact. I mean, it seems like we're all awake, but like, the general public might not be ready to wake up to the fact that their favorite snacks are programming them or allowing them to be programmed. And that's, Starbucks, and I say this a lot in my consultations. I'm like, look, you say you can't afford this for your business, but you spend $5 a day on Starbucks right there. You've got, what is that? 5 times 30 is what? $150. I can't do math quick. So, I mean, how much are you giving to these organizations that are trying to control you, are poisoning you, and are causing issue? And then you're worried, why don't I feel good? Why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? We need to align ourselves, know your DNA, align what you're putting into your body, frequencies. We talked a little bit about Tartarian. I would love to go back into the churches. That church was so important, because when you go into the church and you talk about the bells and the frequencies and how those were healing and how the sun was supposed to be healing. I know the guy that had the Crystal Castle down in Florida, he used to have sun decks that he would lay on and just rotate all day long because he had some form of disease and he wanted to heal himself. And so you used to be able to bathe in the sun, and now you're slathered in a product to protect yourself from it. So it's very, very strange.
It is. And I do think, it's funny that Sam actually chimed in and said, I'm from the UK and the food is getting worse. It all leads back to the money. We have cow farts milk here. And of course, but no, what I want to
we
get
have
to
nut juice here.
nut milk here. Oh no, I gave her low hanging fruit. I shouldn't have done that. But but no, I'll give you my reason too as to why I think it's happening to us and only us. I think there's something to that. But the other thing about a lot of people have come to find out, I'm going to add this in there, that once they stopped eating seed oils, they stopped getting sunburnt, which very interesting kind of correlation. There hasn't been any studies done on it. Don't get me wrong. And even if there probably were studies done on it, they would be freaking tossed to the back, wiped out, erased, because we can't have people know the stuff that we're putting them in their food is causing them to get sunburn, which is making them apply the stuff to them that makes them
Crazy.
get cancer. Yeah, then helps them get programmed on a deeper level. So because cancer is such a big business. But one of the reasons why I think it's being done to us, I think America from the get-go was an experiment.
It seems like it.
I think America from the get-go was an experiment. And I think because we are in this experiment, we have in a lot of ways been kind of dealt the blow from these experiments, because just like you were saying, I got a guy who I work with went over to Italy, and like my office loves to order fucking pizza any chance they get, and I refuse. Hey Christina, thanks for being here. And I refuse to eat pizza here. Like I refuse. I make me and my wife, we make homemade pizza.
Right.
We do it all from scratch because, like we want to make
discard.
Yes. Sourdough discard crust, certainly. And, I was talking with somebody I work with. He's like, dude, I'll go over to Italy and I'll eat the pizza and the pasta all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he goes, because when I eat it over there, it doesn't make me tired. It doesn't make me bloated. It doesn't give me brain fog. It doesn't give me the craps, like all of that stuff. It doesn't give me heartburn. It doesn't give me all of this stuff that the pizza does here. And, you look at the Egg McMuffin over in Europe, and you look at the Egg McMuffin over in Europe is like 6 ingredients. Why
do we need yoga mat plastic in our food? Like, where is that deficient in my body that you need to be like, I'm going to add a little bit of yoga mat plastic and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow dye? Like, why? Why?
I'd be, I'm not going to lie, because like I was never a huge McDonald's fan, but one of the things
I grew up on it
was the Egg McMuffin. I was taken there. When I was a kid, it was one thing. As I got older, though, like I remember I started to lose. I lost my taste for fast food at like 19 years old. Like I remember and what it was, I remember the incident very specifically because of how fucked up I was from it. I was 19. I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time. She wanted to eat. We went to Burger King, and I ended up getting I forgot what kind of burger it was. It was some kind of Whopper, man. But I remember after I ate that Whopper, and this was probably like early divine intervention for me, I was fucked up for 2 days. My stomach wasn't right. I was on the toilet all day long, and like I could barely eat. Like my stomach was so messed up. And I remember even then, this is way before I started my health journey at 20 years old. I remember then too. I was like, man, dude, I'm officially done with fast food. After this, I'm officially done. I was like, no. And I gave up soda when I was 16.
Nice.
There's a funny story behind that. I'll get towards it at the end if anybody really wants to hear it. And I also think one of the biggest reasons they do this to us, Jen, is because of the symbolism here and what this all symbolizes. Like we are all about freedom. We're all about personal sovereignty, personal agency, even the symbolic aspect of the American way. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm talking from a collective stance. I know from an objective stance, America has kind of been BS all along. Don't get me wrong. But from the collective stance and the energy from the collective, this was always a very free, liberating, freedom of thought, freedom of speech, all that. And this is what the parasite class doesn't want. So what do they do to maintain plausible deniability? Number one, because we know plausible deniability is their fucking favorite thing. That's the thing they love.
The cloak.
It's the cloak. It's the cloak. They use plausible deniability to dumb us down into the point where we're okay with being subverted. We're okay with being
so many
oppressed.
people nowadays, they're showing you their communist card, they're telling you how great these different things are. I'm like, you're bragging, you're bragging about this. That's really sad.
It's crazy, man. And that's the thing too, because like you look at it and like I can't tell you how many people, I mean, even somebody I work with, I'm not going to name names, but we were literally having a conversation, and he was like, and I've heard this from many people, I'd be okay with giving up some of my freedoms for safety. And I just look at people like this, like when they say that, and I'm just like, and the number one thing that runs to my head is I'm like, dude, you are responsible for your own goddamn safety. Okay. Like if you are expecting an exterior source to come and be Superman and protect you and save you, no. Each individual person here is responsible for their own safety and the safety of their families. That's how it rolls. Relying on a government or an entity for freaking, yes, it's the head smacking moment, Sam. It is a heads. I almost wanted to do the Batman smack to him. I wanted to be like Robin, just like reach across, but that's why I think they're doing it to us, man, because, there's the collective symbolism of America being free, liberating, being forward thinking, being, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. You're allowed to. And what better way to subvert a country that is against the ideals of the parasite class and what they're trying to achieve is to sneak psychotropic and genetic altering substances into the fucking food supply to make people docile. And one of the secrets I'll tell you about pasta right now is this. Some of the cleanest pasta out there, if you want to still get it, is bronze cut. You have to get the bronze cut pasta, because if you get the regular pasta, it's cut through Teflon. So there's some extra fluoride with your fucking glyphosates if you want to eat the regular pasta that's not bronze cut. Yeah. So
it's those little things, and then like the other day, someone gave us a box from a food giveaway, and I was so thankful, blessed, thank you. I'll try and take free food. And I'm so shocked that they give this stuff out. And I'm not trying to be mad. I mean, free food. Thank you for giving me free food. That's a blessing. However, it was 3-year expired crap granola bars that have crap stuff in it. They were 3 years expired. Then there was mac and cheese, 20 boxes of mac and cheese that have the yellow dye in it, and they were 1 year expired. And I'm like, so we are feeding the general public this stuff, and then we're telling them that food has no control over their health. And then there's no health care, there's sick care, and there's no knowledge of this in school. Even our doctors aren't given nutrition classes. I talked to my nutritionist and dietitian friends, and I unfortunately talk more nutrition than they do.
Absolutely.
I don't understand where we are as a society. And then there's still people who are sick and trusted 100%. Like I just wish we could break through that somewhere, because we all need to be forcing our own autonomy to say, I want to be healthy. I don't feel good. What's wrong? And we don't. We take their opinion, and they don't care. They don't care. They just don't care. Some people do, and then it gets burnt out of them, but they don't care. And that sucks.
They don't, man. And that's the number one thing I want to leave everybody with as we wind down for tonight. And then I got to say the soda story because everybody wants to.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
All right. So the number one thing is it starts with the food. This is how you can start to rebuild your DNA. This is how you can start to clean your body. And this is how you can bring yourself into alignment with your true genetic imprint, who you're meant to be. All right. The content you intake, the music that you listen to, the frequencies that bombard us, they also have an effect on our DNA. So make sure the frequencies you're intaking, make sure the content that you're intaking, the mindset that you have stays in a positive light, stays in a positive frequency, because that's ultimately what's going to help you with your, what I would say, highest genetic expression of yourself. And that's something I think a lot of people need to hop on. I know it's starting to gain momentum now. I mean, yes, I'll give RFK credit where it's due. He has kind of done the push towards the healthier way of being, healthy, the in and
In
out.
and out's a different thing. That's not that's key.
In and out's a little bit different, no, and that's why, like, I mean, I'll eat at Smash Burger on occasion, but they use beef tallow. They put all
Right.
their stuff in beef tallow. They use real meat.
Yeah.
You can access the ingredients on their website. Yeah, yes, I will have Smash Burger on occasion. All right, the soda story. This is how I stopped drinking soda at 16. So I was getting ready to go on a date with this girl I really liked, right? And I was 16 years old, and we were going to go see a movie with each other, right? And I had about like an hour and a half, 2 hours before I had to go meet her at the theater. So my dad, all of you who know about my dad here, of course, he was drinking beers at like 4 p.m. at the Outback Steakhouse. So like I ended up going down there, and I hung out for a minute. He bought me food, and I was drinking Cokes, right? So in the course of like, I'd say the hour and a half that I was there before I walked to the movie theater, which is like about like, 15, 20 minutes up the road, I would walk there. This is before I had a car. And I drank probably about, I want to say like 5 or 6 Cokes. I kid you not. I had to hold in my gas the whole entire movie.
You were a literal gas bag.
I literally, dude, looked pregnant because of how gassy I was. And I'm on this date with this girl, and I drank all of these Cokes, and like I'm holding in my farts, dude, the whole time at this movie. And she's like looking over at me. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." I was like, "I'll be fine." And she's like, "All right." Like she like put her arm around me, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like, "Please don't touch my stomach. It's gonna be all at that point. If you touch my fucking stomach," I'm like thinking this. And I remember like the whole time I'm in the movie theater, I'm thinking to myself in my head as I'm dealing with this. I'm like, why did I drink this many Cokes? Jenn, you there? Oh, there we go. Cool. You cut off.
Yeah, I was freaking out on it.
Yeah. And I'm like sitting there the whole time. I'm like, why did I drink so many sodas? Like, this is horrible. And I'm like, and I'm like sitting there, Karen.
That's a first impression. I mean, I want to hear the other side of this. And then there was this guy I went on a date with, and he like totally crapped his pants in the movie.
I luckily didn't. I luckily said, and I remember
awesome.
I'm sitting there, and like I've always, like I said, even when I was younger, I've always believed in God. I've always believed in the divine. Just I had left my Orthodox and Catholic roots in the past, Sam, and but I always believed in God, the divine. But I remember I'm sitting there, and I said, "I'm like, God, if you can let me make it through this movie with this girl without busting ass everywhere or shitting myself, I will be so thankful, and I will stop fucking drinking soda from this day forward." And lo and behold, dude, I made it through. And it's funny, we ended up dating for like, I think it was like 7 to 8 months, or high school relationships, like you're 7, 8 months, whatever. We ended up dating for 7 to 8 months after the movie too. So
That's
I was
awesome.
like that. No, it was somewhat of a victory at the time. Don't get me wrong. It was somewhat of a victory. And I remember I'm like sitting there at Code Brown. It's literally what it was. I kid you not, I was sweating, y'all. That's how bad it was. I was sweating in the movie theater. And like I went to go put my arm around her, and I'm like, man, I can't lean over too much because I'm like, I'm clenching my cheeks right now. I'm not even gonna lie. And it's like, so like, yeah, that's how I stopped drinking soda. I remember I was like, screw this. I don't want to drink this anymore. Like, it's going to ruin all my chances with girls. Like, that was the mentality when you're like 16 years old. So it's like, and it was
that's
like,
so funny.
I figured,
that's hilarious.
Oh my God, Don, I figured you all would get a kick out of that. I had to tell that story.
That's good.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, poop is my favorite topic. I don't know if you know this, but I talk about poop and detoxing all the time. And I love doing it when like the room is really quiet and there's like stuffiness going on and people don't know what to talk about and it's awkward. And I'm like, do y'all poop enough? Like, I'm sorry, what? Did she just, she did not say that. I'm like, no, I do. Like, do you know the shape of it? Like, are you aware of like what it's doing to you and stuff? Like, is it often? Is it twice a day? You know, oh, you're not, you haven't gone for 5 days? Like, what? Like, it's
I can
so
just see you now, like in this room, like everybody's having a conversation, and there's that long pause, and then all of a sudden you just this is like you come out of the woodwork and you're like, "Have you been pooping enough lately?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
"Did you poop today?"
It's true though. You're absolutely right. And
well, it's so funny when you talk about, like, not to hijack this, and I know you got to go, so just shut me off and like turn my camera off. But like, I think this is such an interesting topic because we talk about parasite cleanses and we talk about eating and we talk about trying to eat better, but the all they tell you to get ready for a parasite cleanse, if you're not actually like medically in the know of what terminology means, all they tell you is make sure your detox pathways are open. And so you look that up and it says, just make sure your endocrine system is working, make sure your liver and kidneys are doing well, make sure you're regular. Like, that's all it says. It does not say if you can't poop, you shouldn't detox. That's a pretty simple sentence. I think that's a very good sentence. And I think it's simple, and it could say that on every parasite cleanse. It could say on every website, if you can't poop regularly, you should not be detoxing, because it's going to float back into your body and it's going to absorb back into your body. And you're going to get more backed up and it's not going to be fun. Yeah, I'm a great topic. People love it when I talk about this topic. It's really fun.
It's a great way to poop though, dude, and poop consistently. A really great way to do that. Exercise.
Seriously, I know. Like, moving the colon around does seem to help a little bit. Well, and also like castor oil in the belly button. I won't tell you why I do it, but I just post it all the time. Did you put castor oil in your belly button yet? And like, if you can't go to the bathroom, and it's funny to me how many people don't want to necessarily feel bad. They're interested in feeling better. So they've gone the medical route or whatever it is they're trying. But then you say something like, well, have you tried castor oil? No, that makes me poop. Okay, well, you're probably full of shit. Did you let it get out? Like, did you let it go? It's because no, every time I put that on, it makes me poop. I'm like, well, so go, like, get it out and clean the problem out, and you'll be fine. No, I can't touch it. It makes me poop. I'm like, oh. You're just stuffing the toxin in forever. Like, that's better for you. I'm not understanding the concept. We'll just take a pill and call it a day.
Oh my God, no! All right, so you have Don in the chat wants to have you on his show now. He was all like, yep. Now I have to have her on my show, with the poop.
If I can talk about poop, I can talk to anybody. So
and then you have girl after my own heart, freaking Bristol stool chart, and then we have Karen, how far open should the pathway be for a healthy poop?
That's what I said. When I figured out what they meant, I was like, do they really mean that like your colon needs to be open? What are they talking about? Like, your detox pathways open? That's so misunderstood. Like, oh my God, just drink some water and make sure you can poop. Like, that's all that it means. Like, oh
and
my
you
God.
know, and like I said, even go dude, here's an even better way to make yourself poop. After you eat, go for like a 15-minute walk around the park.
Yeah.
Like that's the simplest thing you can do, dude. Like, quite literally, it'll get all of the, it'll help. It helps.
Really, exactly. It does. It helps with everything. And plus it sends those chemicals through, right? Like all the digestive chemicals, it sends everything around. If you're really backed up, you can utilize like orange oil or peppermint oil clockwise on your stomach and then go for the walk, because it'll help things relax first. Yes. And then you go for the walk and it does all the movement. And that's perfect. It's perfect.
Definitely, man. Well, shoot, dude, we're gonna have to have you back on for a poop show, and I'm gonna see. We just got to do it. And Don, if you want to co-host that with me, we can do it on After Dark. We could do it on wherever. But no, it is an important topic. But dude, I had a great time here with you solo tonight, Jen. It was great. It was a good show.
Was fun. Thank you.
We touched on a whole bunch of stuff, and so of course I have your X link. I tried putting the link you had in your X in the description, but it wasn't an active link.
It's messing up. Like, it's coming up and then not coming up. Whatever. I mean, I don't.
So
It
yeah,
sends to an Amazon book. Marketing is mind control. That's all it's supposed to do. But my domain is not connecting, and I don't feel like messing with it. So
I
marketing
totally
is
get
mind
it.
control. If you could SEO that would help me out a little bit. That would be wonderful.
Definitely. Well, I do have, guys, if you want to reach out to Jen, aka the Nerd in Charge, I have her X profile in both the
Thank you.
Rumble and the YouTube descriptions for the video. But Jen, if there's anywhere else anybody can find you, or if there's anything else you're working on at this point in time, now would be the time to let everybody know.
I'm always working on something fun.
Nice.
I would like to say I just finished launching with a company called the Backyard Gardener app. And it's a company that really, really wants to change the world. And so a lot of the stuff is like super free or user friendly or whatever. And they work a lot on sponsorships with good people. But basically anybody that grows anything like mint in your window, if you have more than you can use, you can list it on the Backyard Gardener app and sell it to your neighbors or whatever you choose to do. And so it's trying to change the world 2 tomato plants at a time. And if you buy their tomato seeds, they'll ship you some tomato heirloom seeds. You can grow some tomato plants and start having a harvest of something. Because I really do think that food's going to change the world. And so like building that app and that situation with them has really, it's really sparked a thought that there are businesses out there. Not all brands suck. Not all influencers are awful. And if you can search through and find cool things that are doing cool stuff, then you could be a part of some change. And I really think it's cool. So that's the only other thing going on. Otherwise, just say hi on X. No, I'll say hi back.
Nice. Nice. Hell yeah. Well, honestly, Jen, I want to thank you for taking time out of your life to come sit down. I'm glad we could finally do this. And yes, we have to do a round 2, and it's going to be the poop show. And
remind me to tell you on the poop show about in college and my poop chart on the bathroom wall that the girl drew. You had to track your poop after you took one. Remind me to tell you.
I will remind you. Other than that, Jen, if you can hang out for just a couple minutes after the show ends. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for the second BG Cast show of this week. We might eventually do this again in the future. I don't know. But next week, I actually have an interview I've been waiting for a long time. We will have Raquel, Rock That Truth, coming on to discuss about the dark crystal and a lot of other interesting things. So I've been waiting for this for a while to sit down with Raquel Mano y Mano. She's been on our panels before. And thank you, Sam. And, she's been on the Church of True Christ before, but this will be her first time solo on BG Cast. So definitely tune in next Wednesday, usual time. And other than that, guys, you know how we end off the show. You know how this rolls. Okay. Number 1, stay safe. Number 2, stay free, always. Number 3, always have that personal agency and that personal sovereignty. And, of course, number 4, stay away from the Japanese sex robots. You don't want anything to
please.
Leave them alone, okay? All right, guys, have a good night. Take care. I'll see you next. They're not your friend at all. No.
Collectively together, you weren't born to rotate with the crowd. You were born to sink with the sacred spiral. The Hercules stream is proof. The cosmos hummers the divergent. This is urgent. BG-Cast brings us that Hercules energy. It's here to save the day. You won't stay lost in the dark. Here is your shot with BG kept beside you. Can we rise alone?